Another black one thinking he owns my streets. You people never learn your place. White Officer Stevens approaches the elderly black man on Broad Street, Richmond. Thomas Walker, 68 and black, watching sidewalk art. Show me ID now, don't give me black excuses. Thomas, confused. Officer, what's wrong? When I tell you black people to show ID, you obey. Thomas reaches for his wallet, but Stevens grabs and shoves hard. Thomas falls backward, body hits pavement, head cracks concrete, glasses fly off. Don't resist. Thomas lies still, dazed, wallet falls. Stevens opens it. Face goes deathly white. The ID shows rare federal credentials. This elderly black man spent 14 years as one of America's most powerful legal minds who wrote the law prosecuting brutal cops. 50,000 watch live as this white officer attacks the one black authority controlling police accountability. This exposes 12 years buried and 340,000 paid silencing 52 black victims. Subscribe to watch him lose everything. Thomas Walker walks the same route every Tuesday afternoon. Has for 2 years now, ever since he retired from the bench, ever since the calendar suddenly had empty spaces where oral arguments used to be. He's 68, moves slower than he used to but still stands straight, still wears the polished leather shoes, still folds his newspaper just so under his arm. The route never changes. Out the front door at 5:15, past the bakery with the green awning where Mrs. Chen always waves through the window, past the newsstand where Patterson saves him a Times, left on Broad Street where the brick sidewalk buckles in places from tree roots and a century of footsteps. He stops at Morrison's Coffee, orders decaf. Doctor's orders after the small scare last spring. Sarah, his daughter up in Boston, made him promise. The ritual matters more than the caffeine anyway. The pattern, the normalcy. His wife used to say justice isn't just in courtrooms. It's on the streets. She'd say it while they walked these same blocks 30 years ago when he was just starting out, when the Supreme Court was still something other people did. She's been gone 3 years. He still hears her voice sometimes, still catches himself turning to share an observation before remembering she's not there. Thomas doesn't think much about the old days, doesn't need the attention. The tourists who recognized him at first don't anymore. The law students stopped asking for photos. He's just another old man with a newspaper and decaf coffee, which suits him fine. The cafe smells like cinnamon and steam, the hiss of the espresso machine, the low murmur of afternoon conversations. He sits in the corner booth, the one with the view of the street, watches people pass, reads the editorial page. Disagrees with most of it, but reads it anyway. Outside, autumn light slants through the old oak trees. September in Virginia. Still warm, but the edge is changing. The quality of light different. School buses rumble past. A street musician plays guitar 2 blocks over. The notes drift through the open windows. Thomas finishes his coffee. Leaves exact change. Patterson's granddaughter is working the counter. She smiles. Doesn't know who he is. That's fine, too. At 5:38, he steps back onto Broad Street. The leather soles click against brick. The newspaper tucked under his arm. The afternoon stretching ahead. Maybe he'll stop at the library. Maybe just walk home the long way. Today feels like every other Tuesday. The same rhythm, the same route, the same peace. Until it doesn't. Thomas passes the sidewalk artist. Young woman with chalk pastels sketching the old courthouse. She's there most afternoons. He usually nods. Today he pauses. The drawing is good, really good. The way she's captured the light on the columns. He stands there maybe 30 seconds, hands in his pockets, just an old man appreciating art on a Tuesday afternoon. The artist glances up, smiles, goes back to her work. The street is busy but not crowded, people heading home from work. A dog walker with 3 leashes, teenagers on skateboards, the normal texture of a city afternoon. Thomas doesn't notice the patrol car slow down across the street, doesn't see the officer get out, doesn't register the footsteps coming toward him until they're close, very close. A voice cuts through the afternoon sounds, sharp, official. Sir? Thomas looks up. A police officer. Young, maybe mid-30s, badge number visible, name tag, Stevens. Sir, I need to see some ID. The words hang in the air. The afternoon suddenly feels different, heavier. Thomas's hand goes to his back pocket, then stops. Is there a problem, officer? At 5:41 p.m. on September 17th, everything changes. Officer Blake Stevens doesn't smile, doesn't explain, just repeats himself. I need to see identification. Now. Thomas Walker has lived 68 years, has stood before the Supreme Court, has faced down senators and protesters and death threats. His voice stays level. I haven't done anything wrong. What's the reason for the stop? Stevens steps closer, 6 inches from Thomas's face, close enough that Thomas can smell coffee on his breath, close enough to be a message. I asked you a question. You gonna make this difficult? The sidewalk artist has stopped drawing. A woman walking her dog slows down. Across the street, a young woman, Jennifer Bailey, art student, 29, pulls out her phone. She hits go live. Thomas's hands are open, empty, visible. I'm just asking why. The shove comes fast. Not a push, a shove. 2 hands, full force. Thomas is 68. His balance isn't what it was. His reflex is slower. He stumbles backward, tries to catch himself, can't. His shoulder hits first, then his hip, then his cheek against the brick sidewalk. Cold, rough, the taste of copper in his mouth. The crowd noise changes, sharpens. Someone yells. The dog barks. Stevens is on him immediately, knee between the shoulder blades, hands yanking Thomas's arms back, the metal cuffs tight around his wrists, too tight. Stop resisting. But Thomas isn't resisting. Thomas is trying to breathe, his cheek pressed against the pavement, the texture of brick and old gum and city dirt. His glasses knocked sideways, the newspaper pages scattering in the breeze. Jennifer's phone is steady, the live stream counter climbing. 40 viewers, 80, 120. Oh my God, she whispers into the phone. Oh my God, are you seeing this? Thomas tries to speak, can't get enough air. The knee presses harder, his ribs ache. He's 68. His body doesn't bend like it used to. Stevens keys his radio. Unit 7-2, need backup at Broad and 5th, suspect detained. Suspect. The word floats above Thomas's head like something from another language. The sidewalk artist has her phone out too, so does the dog walker, so do half a dozen other people. All filming, all streaming, all capturing the exact same moment from different angles. Thomas can hear Stevens breathing hard. Adrenaline or anger or both. Can hear the sirens getting closer. Can hear Jennifer still narrating for her live stream audience. An elderly man just standing there. The officer just threw him down. 2 more patrol cars arrive. 4 officers now. One puts a hand on Stevens' shoulder, says something quiet. Stevens gets off Thomas slowly, reluctantly. They pull Thomas to his feet. His legs shake. His cheek burns. Blood in his mouth from a split lip. His shirt torn at the shoulder. One of the new officers picks up Thomas's wallet. The one that fell from his pocket, flips it open to check ID, goes very still, shows it to his partner. Both their faces change. Stevens is still writing in his notepad, still acting like this is normal, routine. Then his partner hands him the wallet. Blake Stevens looks at the ID, looks at Thomas, looks at the ID again. His face goes white. Because the card isn't just a driver's license, it's a United States Supreme Court identification. Issued 2008, active until 2022, the man on the ground, the man in handcuffs, the man with blood on his face. Chief Justice, United States Supreme Court. Jennifer's live stream hits 50,000 viewers. Jennifer Bailey's live stream doesn't stop. 3 minutes and 56 seconds of uninterrupted footage. The shove, the fall, the handcuffs, the blood, every second. She uploads it immediately. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, everywhere at once. The video spreads like electricity through water. By 6 o'clock, 50,000 views. By 6:15, 200,000. By 6:30, trending on 3 platforms. Hashtags forming like storms. #Richmond PD. #Justice for Elders. #Black Lives Matter. The comments come fast, angry, shocked, demanding answers. He was just standing there. Elderly man, no threat, just standing. Where's the justification? Where? The video is clear, undeniable. A 68-year-old man looking at sidewalk art, an officer with no visible provocation, violence in broad daylight with witnesses everywhere. At 6:45, a second video surfaces, security camera from Green's Bakery across the street, better angle, clearer view, timestamp, 17 hours, 41 minutes, and 18 seconds. You can see Stevens's face, the sneer, the deliberate step forward, the two-handed shove. The bakery owner posts it herself. Caption, "This happened outside my shop today. Officer had no reason, none." At 7:30, Richmond Police Department issues a statement. 3 paragraphs of carefully chosen words. The Richmond Police Department is aware of an incident involving one of our officers and a member of the community. The department takes all complaints seriously. A full internal investigation is underway. The officer involved has been placed on administrative leave pending review. No mention of Thomas's name. No mention of his age. No mention of the blood. No apology. The comments under the statement are immediate and harsh. Administrative leave? Paid vacation, you mean? Investigate. We can all see what happened. Name the officer. Name him now. At 8 o'clock, police body cam footage leaks. Not officially released. Just appears on a file-sharing site. Stevens body cam. Crystal clear video. But something strange. The audio cuts out exactly when Stevens approaches Thomas. Technical glitch, the file notes say. Audio malfunction. Convenient. The video without audio somehow makes it worse. You can see Thomas's mouth moving. Calm. Reasonable. You can see his hands open and empty. You can see the violence in complete silence. Like watching a crime through soundproof glass. Grace Thompson watches all of it. 7 times. She's an investigative reporter for the Richmond Times-Dispatch. 15 years covering police and city hall. She knows what administrative leave means, knows what full investigation usually produces. Nothing. But something about this case bothers her beyond the usual outrage. Something about the victim's face, the way he held himself even while being pushed down, the calm in his eyes. She's seen that face before. At 8:45, Grace opens her archive, the one she keeps of major cases, photos from courthouse steps, press conferences, historical moments. She types a name, hits enter. Her screen fills with images, Supreme Court official portraits, 2008 to 2022, oral arguments, State of the Union addresses, the man in the black robe shaking hands with 4 presidents, the man in the robe. The man on the ground, same face, same eyes, same bearing, even with his cheek against brick. Thomas Edward Walker, Chief Justice, United States Supreme Court, retired 2022 after 14 years on the bench. Before that, federal appellate judge. Before that, assistant attorney general. Civil rights cases, voting rights, police immunity decisions. Grace reaches for her phone with shaking hands. Her editor answers on the first ring. We need to rewrite everything, she says. The man in the video, I know who he is. At 9:15, the Richmond Times-Dispatch publishes a new story. New headline. Everything changes. Former Chief Justice assaulted by Richmond police. The story detonates. CNN picks it up within minutes. MSNBC, Fox News, AP Wire, Reuters, International Press, the BBC, Al Jazeera. Within an hour, the story is global. Not just another police brutality video, a Supreme Court justice, face down on a Richmond sidewalk, in handcuffs, bleeding. The White House press secretary gets pulled from dinner to draft a statement. The Attorney General's office lights up. The governor of Virginia gets briefed at 10 p.m. The mayor of Richmond goes into emergency session with city council. At Richmond Police Headquarters, someone hands Officer Blake Stevens a tablet, shows him the headline. He reads it twice, 3 times. The color drains from his face. The man he threw down, the man whose face he ground into brick, the man he handcuffed like a common criminal. That man wrote the majority opinion in Pearson v. Richmond PD, the 2019 case that limited qualified immunity for police officers, the decision that made it easier to sue cops who exceeded their authority. The man he assaulted literally wrote the legal framework that could now be used to prosecute him. Irony isn't strong enough. Karma isn't strong enough. Justice might be the word. Stevens sits in an interview room, union lawyer already on the way, trying to remember exactly what he said, exactly what he did, trying to build a defense in his head. But 50,000 people already watched, saw everything, from multiple angles, in high definition. Outside the precinct, protesters are gathering, 50 people by 10 p.m., 100 by 10:30, signs going up, justice for Justice Walker. Badge doesn't mean immunity. We saw everything. Inside, Captain Derek Walsh calls an emergency meeting. Internal affairs, union reps, city lawyers, everyone trying to figure out how this happened, how one of their officers put hands on a former Chief Justice in broad daylight with cameras everywhere. No one has a good answer. Grace Thompson is still at her desk, writing follow-ups, making calls, because she knows something the protesters don't know yet, something the department doesn't want anyone to know. This isn't Blake Stevens' first complaint, not even close. She starts pulling records, cross-referencing case numbers, following a thread that leads somewhere dark. The country knows Thomas Walker's name now, knows his face, knows his story, but what they don't know yet, What Grace is about to discover will make this about so much more than one man. Grace Thompson's screen fills with images. Supreme Court Archives, 2008 to 2022. Thomas Edward Walker in black robes. Thomas Edward Walker administering oaths. Thomas Edward Walker writing history with careful, measured opinions. The same man, the same face, same dignity, even with concrete against his cheek. She calls her editor back. It's 11 p.m., but Mike answers immediately. "Tell me you're sure," he says. "I'm sure. I covered his retirement ceremony. I've seen him in person. It's him." Then we lead with it. Front page. Digital first, then print. By 11:30, the updated story is live. The headline bigger, bolder. "Former Chief Justice of the United States thrown to ground by Richmond police." The subhead, Thomas Walker, 68, who served on nation's highest court, assaulted during routine walk. Multiple cameras captured incident. The story doesn't just go viral, it detonates. Nuclear. Cable news breaks into regular programming. CNN anchor struggles to maintain composure reading the copy. To be clear, we're talking about a former Chief Justice. The Chief Justice. Face down on a sidewalk in handcuffs. MSNBC rolls the body cam footage. Silent video. The shove, the fall, then cuts to Walker's official portrait. Same man, same eyes. The contrast devastating. Fox News tries to both sides it, but even their hosts sound shaken. We need to wait for all the facts, but these images are deeply disturbing. By midnight, every network has correspondent en route to Richmond. By 1 a.m., satellite trucks line up outside the police headquarters. By 2 a.m., the precinct parking lot looks like a media convention. The White House issues a formal statement, carefully worded. The president has been briefed. The administration believes in due process while also recognizing the serious nature of these allegations. The Department of Justice is monitoring the situation. Translation: We're watching. The Department of Justice issues its own statement an hour later, less careful. Civil rights violations, if proven, will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of federal law. Translation: We're coming. Inside Richmond Police Headquarters, the mood shifts from defensive to panicked. This isn't just bad PR. This isn't just another viral video. This is a constitutional crisis playing out on social media. Captain Walsh pulls Stevens into his office, closes the door. "Tell me you had probable cause. Tell me he was resisting. Tell me something." Stevens' lawyer cuts in. "My client is invoking his right to remain silent pending." "Did you know who he was?" Walsh's voice cracks. "No, I didn't. I saw an elderly black man refusing to comply." The lawyer puts a hand on Stevens' arm. "Stop talking, now." But the words are already out there, floating in the air like smoke. Elderly black man, refusing to comply. Walsh closes his eyes. 5 similar stops in the past year, all elderly black men, all refusing to comply, all in the same neighborhood. The pattern suddenly visible, impossible to ignore. At Thomas Walker's house, the doorbell doesn't stop ringing. Reporters, camera crews, neighbors offering support. His daughter Sarah books an emergency flight from Boston. His former law clerks start a group text that scrolls with messages faster than he can read. Thomas sits in his study, the same chair where he used to draft opinions, where the law used to feel clear and solid. Now nothing feels clear. His face aches. His ribs ache. His wrists have marks from the handcuffs, but it's not the physical pain that keeps him awake. It's the look on Stevens' face. That moment of recognition, the way the officer's expression changed from aggression to shock to fear. Not remorse, fear. Fear of consequences, not regret for actions. Thomas has spent a lifetime believing in the system, believing that law, properly applied, bends toward justice. Tonight, he's not sure. His phone won't stop buzzing. 300 unread messages, voicemails from senators, from governors, from the current Chief Justice offering support, from law schools offering to name buildings after him if he wants to make this a teaching moment. He turns the phone face down. Doesn't want to be a symbol. Doesn't want to be a case study. Just wants to walk down Broad Street without being thrown to the ground. At 3 a.m., Sarah calls from the airport. "Dad, I'm coming home. Don't argue." He doesn't argue. Truth is, he doesn't want to be alone. Outside, a news van idles at the curb, camera pointed at his front window, waiting for the story to continue. The country knows Thomas Walker, knows his name, knows his face, knows his record, but they don't know what Grace Thompson is about to uncover. They don't know about the 12 other cases, about the pattern, about the system that protected Stevens through it all. That story is just beginning. Grace Thompson doesn't sleep. Can't. Not with this thread unraveling in front of her. She calls Julian Davis at 6 a.m., former FBI, now independent investigator specializing in police misconduct. Freelance, expensive, worth every cent. "I need you," she says. "Richmond PD, Officer Blake Stevens, I'm seeing patterns." Julian is at her office by 7, brings coffee and a laptop filled with databases most reporters don't know exist. They start with public records. Stevens' personnel file, requested formally through FOIA, heavily redacted, black lines across half the pages. But case numbers are visible. Complaint numbers, dates. Julian starts cross-referencing. Complaint number against disposition code, case number against internal investigation number, looking for what's missing, what should be there but isn't. 12 complaints, Julian says. His finger traces down the screen. 9 years, 2015 to 2024. How many sustained? 0. Grace looks up. 0? Not one? Not one. All dismissed. Various reasons, insufficient evidence, witness credibility issues, suspect non-compliance, justified force. Julian pulls up each case, reads the summaries aloud. Case hash 2015-1203. Stevens stops 18-year-old black male. No traffic violation, no warrant, requests ID. Subject asks why. Stevens uses force. Broken nose. Complaint filed. IA investigation. Conclusion, subject made furtive movement. Officer felt threatened. No policy violation. Case hash 2017-856. Stevens responds to noise complaint. Apartment complex, predominantly black neighborhood. Confronts resident, argument escalates. Stevens breaks resident's wrist during arrest. Complaint filed. IA investigation. Conclusion, resisting arrest. Appropriate force. No policy violation. Case hash 2018-3102. Stevens conducts traffic stop. Driver asks to see supervisor. Stevens interprets this as non-compliance. Drags driver from vehicle, 2 cracked ribs, complaint filed, IA investigation. Conclusion, officer safety concerns, justified response, no policy violation. The pattern crystallizes. 12 cases, 12 black or brown complainants, 12 dismissals, same officer, same outcome, same words in every report, non-compliance. Officer safety, appropriate force. But here's what makes Grace's stomach turn. After 2022, Stevens' file goes clean. Not clean like he changed. Clean like someone erased it. The records purge, Julian says. 2022, department-wide, supposedly to update the digital system. But look. He pulls up a directory tree, shows her the metadata. Files deleted, not archived, deleted permanently, no backup, no recovery, except Julian knows how to find ghosts. He boots up a secondary drive, pulls data from backup servers, from email servers, from places the department forgot existed. The files emerge like negatives developing. Complaint forms, witness statements, medical reports, everything internal affairs saw, everything they dismissed. "They're all in here," Julian says quietly. "Every single one." But that's not all he finds. Buried in an IT contractor's email archive, because contractors save everything, there's correspondence. Subject line, Q3 complaint stats, confidential, from Anthony Reed, Police Union President, to Sharon Collins, City Manager. Date, March 15th, 2024. The email is short, blunt. "Sharon, we need to get these numbers down before the election. The current complaint rate is becoming a PR liability. Can we discuss settlement strategies for pending cases? We've done this before. Union can help mediate if needed, but we need the city's cooperation on this." Response from Collins. "Understood. Let's talk offline. I'll have legal review our options. As before, settle quietly where we can. No public hearings, standard NDAs. We've got discretionary funds available." Grace reads it 3 times. This isn't just about Blake Stevens. This is policy, strategy, conspiracy. Julian digs deeper, follows the money. City settlement fund. Discretionary line item. Budget documents public but details sealed. He finds 8 settlements, 3 years, $340,000. Cases closed before formal complaints. Victims paid, NDAs signed, everything buried. "They've been doing this for years," Grace says. "And Thomas Walker is just the first one they couldn't bury. Because you can't NDA a former Chief Justice when 50,000 people watched it happen live." Grace starts building a database. Victim names, complaint dates, outcomes, settlement amounts. A spreadsheet that tells a story no official report ever would. Thomas Walker isn't the first. He's just the first person whose face and name made it impossible to ignore. She thinks about the others. The 18-year-old with the broken nose, the man with the cracked ribs, the woman dragged from her car. All of them black or brown, all of them dismissed as non-compliant, all of them disappeared into a system designed to protect officers, not citizens. By noon, Grace has 30 pages of documentation. By 2 p.m., Julian has verified every claim. By 4 p.m., they have a story that's bigger than one bad cop. It's about a system, a machine, one that grinds up complaints and spits out cleared officers, one that uses taxpayer money to silence victims, one that's been operating in plain sight for years. Grace calls her editor. "I need 72 hours, she says, and I need legal to review every word, because what I'm about to publish will burn the department to the ground." Mike doesn't hesitate. "You've got it. Write carefully, write factually, but write it all." At Richmond Police Headquarters, Captain Walsh gets a call from legal. "We've got a problem. Times Dispatch is digging into old complaints. Multiple sources saying they have emails, internal emails." Walsh goes quiet. Thinks about the March conversation. The one he was in the room for. The one about settling quietly. "How bad?" he asks. "Bad enough that I'm calling. If you've ever felt the system is too big to change, stay with me. The next part shows why evidence matters more than power. The pushback starts fast, and it's coordinated." Anthony Reed, police union president, calls a press conference at 10 a.m., steps up to the podium, camera flashes everywhere, voice steady and practiced. "Our officers face split-second decisions every day, life or death situations. Thomas Walker may have been a judge, but in that moment he was a citizen who refused to comply with a lawful order. Officer Stevens followed department protocol. The use of force was justified given the circumstances." Reporter shouts. "What circumstances? He was looking at sidewalk art." Reed doesn't flinch. "The investigation will reveal all relevant details. What I can tell you is that Monday morning quarterbacking doesn't keep our communities safe. Our officers deserve due process just like everyone else." By noon, Fox local affiliate runs a segment. Questions emerge about Justice Walker's conduct. No evidence, just questions, just speculation dressed up as journalism. Was the former Chief Justice cooperative? Sources say there may have been verbal resistance. Was he impaired? Toxicology reports are standard procedure. There was no toxicology test. Thomas refused it. As is his right. But the seed is planted. Doubt introduced. Maybe the video doesn't show everything. Maybe there's context we're missing. Someone, anonymous tip to a friendly outlet, digs up a 40-year-old traffic ticket. Thomas Walker, 1984, speeding citation, paid in full. The headline, Chief Justice, not so perfect, past violations surface. A speeding ticket from 40 years ago, suddenly relevant. Sarah Walker's phone starts ringing at 2 a.m. Unknown numbers, anonymous voices. "Tell your dad to back off. Tell him this doesn't end well. Tell him to think about his family." She doesn't answer after the third call, but they keep coming. 10 calls, 20, 50. Grace Thompson's email gets hacked at 3 a.m. Nothing stolen, just a message left in her drafts folder. "We know where you work. We know where you live. Be careful what you publish." She reports it, files a police report with the same department she's investigating. The irony isn't lost on her. The Richmond Times-Dispatch receives a call from City Hall, not the mayor, someone lower, someone who handles things. "Just want you to know, ad contracts come up for renewal next quarter. City advertising budget is substantial. Would hate to see any complications." The editor, Mike, records the call. Legal advice, good thing too. Julian Davis's source inside internal affairs stops returning calls, just goes silent, won't answer texts, won't meet. 3 days ago he was providing documents. Now, nothing. Julian knows what that silence means. Pressure applied, threats made, careers hanging by threads. Stevens' attorney appears on CNN, primetime, full suit and practice sympathy. Officer Stevens is the real victim here. Trial by media. His life destroyed by a viral video that doesn't show the full picture. This is exactly the kind of rush to judgment that undermines public trust in law enforcement. The host pushes back. But we've seen the video. You've seen an video, edited from one angle. What you haven't seen are Officer Stevens' 20 commendations, his service record. His community outreach, 9 years without a single sustained complaint, because they were all dismissed, all buried, but the lawyer doesn't mention that. The department leaks an internal memo. Confidential, stamped across the top, but somehow it reaches 3 news outlets by evening. The memo claims Thomas refused to identify himself and made aggressive gestures. Claims Stevens felt threatened by the subject's demeanor. Claims standard de-escalation techniques were attempted, but subject remained non-compliant. No body cam audio to confirm any of it. Convenient. Thomas watches it all from his living room, Sarah beside him. 72 hours since the incident. He looks older. The bruise on his face has turned purple-black. His ribs still ache when he breathes deep. Dad, maybe they're right. Maybe this isn't worth it. Your health. They're lying, Thomas says quietly. Every word. They're lying. I know, but they're powerful. They have lawyers and unions and... I spent 14 years on the Supreme Court. You know what I learned? Power doesn't make you right. It just makes you loud. But even he sounds uncertain, tired. Grace sits across from her editor. We have the emails. We have the settlements. We have everything. Mike rubs his temples. And their lawyers will tie us up for years. Defamation suits, discovery battles. Can we prove it all, beyond doubt? We can prove the pattern. We can prove the money. We can prove... Can we prove conspiracy? Can we prove Collins and Reed made an explicit deal? Grace goes quiet. Because that's the gap. The thing they can infer but can't definitively prove. Yet. These stories, Mike says slowly. Sometimes they go nowhere, you know that. Sometimes the machine wins. Sometimes people just get tired. So we give up? I'm saying be prepared. Be prepared for this to hurt more than it helps. That night, Thomas drafts an email. To Grace, to Julian, to his lawyer. I appreciate everything you've done, but I think it's time to step back. This has become bigger than one incident, bigger than me, and I'm not sure my involvement helps anymore. His finger hovers over send. He stares at the screen. Thinks about the 18-year-old with the broken nose, the man with the cracked ribs, all the others who didn't have his name, his platform, his privilege. If he backs down, what happens to them? The grandfather clock ticks, loud in the empty house. Rain starts against the windows, slow, steady. Thomas closes his eyes, the weight of it all pressing down. He doesn't hit send, not yet, because at 3:17 a.m. his phone rings. Unknown number. He almost doesn't answer, but something makes him pick up. Mr. Walker? The voice is older. Male, careful. My name is Richard Bennett. I'm retired Richmond PD, 15 years internal affairs, and I need to tell you something. This is where many people give up, where the system seems too strong. But Thomas Walker isn't many people. Watch what happens when 52 voices become one. Thomas Walker sits in his study, the one where he used to draft opinions, where precedent and principle felt like solid ground, where the law made sense. Now, nothing makes sense. His head still aches. Concussion, the doctor said. Mild, but real. Rest, no screens, no stress. Good luck with that when your face is on every news channel. But the physical pain isn't the hard part. It's the doubt. The creeping question that keeps him awake. What if they're too strong? What if this doesn't matter? Sarah flew in from Boston, found her father smaller somehow, quieter, not the man who stood before the Supreme Court without flinching. Just an old man who got hurt and doesn't know if fighting back makes any difference. Dad, maybe they're right about one thing. Maybe it's not worth your health. He doesn't answer. Just stares at the wall where his Supreme Court portrait used to hang. He took it down last year, didn't need the reminder. Now he wonders if he took it down because he already knew. Already felt the distance between what the law promises and what it actually delivers. Grace Thompson sits across from her editor. Third meeting this week. The story is ready. The evidence is compiled. But Mike's hesitating. We publish this, they'll come after us. Not just lawyers, advertisers, city contracts, the whole machine. So we don't publish? We just sit on it? I'm saying, these stories. Sometimes they go nowhere. You've seen it. The outrage lasts a week. Then another story breaks. Then everyone forgets. And we're left holding legal bills we can't afford. Grace feels something crack inside. Because he's not wrong. She's been doing this 15 years. Seen patterns before. seen videos before, seen promises of change before. And what changed? What actually changed? Julian Davis calls at midnight. I'm hitting walls. Nobody will talk. My IA source went completely dark. We need something bigger, something undeniable, something that forces action instead of just making noise. Grace's phone buzzes. Another anonymous email. Just 2 words this time. Stop now. She stares at it. Thinks about her apartment, her car, her routine, how easy it would be for someone to, no, that's the point, that's what they want, fear, silence, compliance. But she's tired. So tired. Thomas can't sleep. Hasn't really slept in 3 days. Every time he closes his eyes, he feels the brick against his cheek, feels the knee between his shoulder blades, feels the handcuffs too tight on his wrists. He's 68 years old, spent a lifetime believing in institutions, believing that law, properly applied, protects everyone, believing that the system works if you work within it. Tonight, he's not sure he believes any of that. His wife used to say justice isn't just in courtrooms, it's on the streets. Easy to say, harder to live, especially when the streets feel like battlegrounds and the courtrooms feel complicit. He drafts the email again, to Grace, to Julian, to Evelyn Moore at ACLU who offered to represent him. I appreciate everything, but I think it's time to step back. This has become something I never intended, and I'm not sure my continued involvement helps anyone. Honest words, true words, words that taste like defeat but feel like survival. His finger hovers over send. The clock ticks, the rain falls, the house creaks in that way old houses do. Sarah is asleep in the guest room, her phone on silent after the harassment got too bad. She has a life in Boston, a job, friends. None of this is her fight. Maybe it's not his fight either. Maybe at 68, after a lifetime of service, he's earned the right to walk away, to heal, to be safe. Maybe fighting the system from within only works when you're inside the system. And he's not anymore. He's just another victim. Another face in another viral video that people will forget when the next one comes along. Thomas closes his eyes. The weight of it all, the impossibility. He doesn't hit send. Not yet. Because at 3:17 a.m., his phone rings. Unknown number. He stares at it. Probably another threat, another warning, another voice telling him to back down. He should let it go to voicemail, should protect himself, should be smart. Instead, something makes him answer. Mr. Walker? The voice is older, measured, careful. My name is Richard Bennett. I'm retired Richmond PD, 15 years internal affairs. I quit 3 years ago because I couldn't watch it anymore. Thomas sits up. Watch what? What they did to people like you, what they're still doing. And I kept copies, files they thought were gone. I'll testify if you need me. But you need to know something first. What? You're not the first. You're not even close. And if you quit now, you won't be the last. Richard Bennett is 63, retired Richmond PD, 15 years in internal affairs before he walked away. Before the system broke something in him he couldn't fix. I saw what happened to you, he tells Thomas. Saw the video, and I knew exactly what was coming next. The denials, the character attacks, the machine protecting itself. Why are you calling me? Because you're the one people will listen to, and because I kept everything. Everything. 12 years of files, complaint forms, witness statements, medical reports, investigation notes, everything internal affairs saw and dismissed, everything the 2022 purge was supposed to erase. They didn't know I backed it up. Personal drive, off-site storage, old-school paranoid, my wife called it. Turns out I was right to be paranoid. Thomas feels something shift. Not hope exactly, not yet, but possibility. Why now? Why after all this time? Because you're the first one they can't bury. First one with a name big enough that people have to pay attention. And if not now, when? By morning, Grace's inbox floods. Not threats this time. Something else. Messages from people she's never met. Names she doesn't recognize. 52 people. 9 years. Different neighborhoods. Different circumstances. Same officer. Same story. Marcus Brown, 2016. Officer Stevens broke my arm during a traffic stop. I was reaching for my registration. They said I resisted. I didn't resist. I just wanted to go home. Keisha Washington, 2019. He stopped me walking home from church, Sunday afternoon. Said I matched a description. What description? I'm a 50-year-old woman in a church dress. He put me against a wall. Called me things I won't repeat. I filed a complaint. Nothing happened. James Patterson, 2021. My son is 16. Steven stopped him on his bike. Hey, no reason, just stopped him. My boy asked why. Stevens threw him off the bike, 16 years old. Every story different, every outcome the same. Complaint filed, investigation opened, investigation closed, no policy violation, no discipline, nothing. Grace and Julian build a database, 52 names, dates, locations, a pattern so clear it's impossible to deny. Not one bad apple, a system that protects bad apples, that fertilizes them, that promotes them. At noon, ACLU Virginia announces formal representation. Evelyn Moore, lead counsel, holds a press conference. This isn't just about Justice Walker. This is about systematic failure, about a department that has spent years covering up misconduct, about a city government that enabled it. We're filing a federal civil rights lawsuit, and we're asking for a consent decree putting Richmond PD under federal oversight. The announcement lands like a bomb. A rally forms, state capitol steps, 200 people by 2 p.m. 500 by 3. By 4, the crowd stretches down the block. Signs. Justice for Thomas. 52 voices. No one above the law, including cops. Marcus Brown is there. Keisha Washington. James Patterson and his son. All of them. The 52 names from the database. No longer just case numbers. Real people, real faces, real stories. Thomas arrives with Sarah. Didn't plan to. Didn't want the attention. But Evelyn called. They need to see you. They need to know someone's listening. The crowd parts. Quiet, respectful. People reach out to touch his hand, his shoulder. Thank you. Don't stop. We're with you. Thomas looks at the faces. Young, old, black, brown, white. United by one thing. The belief that this matters. That this time is different. A woman approaches. Keisha Washington. Her eyes wet. I never told anyone, not even my family, because who would believe me? But I'm telling now, because of you. Thomas's voice cracks. It shouldn't take someone like me. It should have mattered when it was you. But it didn't, and now it does, so let's not waste it. The crowd is chanting now, steady, rhythmic, like waves. No justice, no peace, prosecute police. Sarah stands beside her father, squeezes his hand. He's shaking, not from fear, from something else, something like hope. The sound of 500 voices, like thunder, like a reckoning. The momentum shifts, the machine stumbles, and somewhere in a city hall office, people start making very different calculations. Grace Thompson gets a USB drive in the mail, no return address, plain manila envelope, postmark, Richmond, Virginia. Inside, just the drive and a handwritten note. You'll want to hear this. A friend. She plugs it in. Her laptop scans for malware, clean, one file, audio recording, MP3 format, 18 minutes long. Timestamp March 12, 2024. File name, Executive Session, City Council. She hits play, the hiss of recording. Conference room acoustics, paper shuffling. Voices overlapping as people settle in, then clear, official. City Manager Sharon Collins. Thank you all for joining this executive session. As you know, we're here to discuss the ongoing issue of complaint statistics and their impact on department perception, particularly heading into an election year. Council member voice. Male, uncertain. What exactly are we discussing? Collins. The current complaint rate against Richmond PD is tracking 15% above last year. The media coverage has been problematic. We need strategies to address this before it becomes a campaign issue. Another voice, Anthony Reed, unmistakable. From the union's perspective, our officers are under siege. Every interaction gets recorded. Every decision gets second-guessed. Morale is at an all-time low. Collins. I understand, which is why we're here, to find solutions. Reed. Internal Affairs needs to understand their role. They work for the department, not against it. We've had success in the past with, let's call them alternative resolution processes. Council member. Alternative how? Reed. Settling complaints before they become formal. Mediating directly with complainants. Offering compensation in exchange for confidentiality agreements. Long pause. Someone clears their throat. Collins. We've done this before. Discretionary settlement fund. Legal has approved the mechanism. It's not admission of guilt. It's efficient resolution of disputes. Council member. How much are we talking? Collins. The current fund has $340,000. 8 cases resolved in the past 3 years. No public hearings, no media coverage, clean, Reed. And that's the goal. Keep it clean, keep it quiet. We protect our officers. You protect the city's reputation. Everyone wins. Another voice, female this time. What about the complainants? What about their rights? Collins. They get compensated. That's more than most departments offer. They sign NDAs. They move on. It's actually generous when you think about it. Reed. The alternative is dragging these cases through public hearings, destroying officers' careers, destroying community trust. Is that what we want? Silence. Then Collins. So we're agreed? IA continues current protocols. Legal facilitates settlements where appropriate. Union cooperates on messaging. We present a unified front that Richmond PD is reformed, responsive, and transparent. Murmurs of agreement. Reed. One more thing. We need the budget increase approved. New equipment, better pensions. That's the trade. We keep our house in order. You keep your promises. Collins. Already in the draft budget, 12% increase over last year. Reed. Then we have a deal. The recording ends. Grace sits frozen, listening to silence, then plays it again. Then a third time. This isn't speculation. This isn't inference. This is conspiracy, on tape. In their own words. Julian verifies the metadata. Timestamps match. Voice analysis confirms identities. It's real. It's admissible. It's dynamite. Grace calls her editor. We're publishing tonight, everything, and Mike, they're finished. By 8 p.m., the story is live. Full audio embedded. Transcript included. Headline, City Hall new, leaked recording exposes systematic cover-up of police complaints. By 9 p.m., CNN, MSNBC, Fox, AP Wire. The story goes national again, but different this time. Not sympathy for a victim. Outrage at a conspiracy. By 10 p.m., Department of Justice announces formal investigation. Civil rights probe, federal jurisdiction. By 11 p.m., Sharon Collins issues a statement. These recordings were obtained illegally and taken completely out of context. The city stands behind its officers and its commitment to transparency. But there is no context that makes it better. No explanation that justifies it. The words speak for themselves. At Richmond Police Headquarters, officers watch the news in stunned silence. Some angry, some scared, some relieved that the truth is finally out. Captain Walsh gets a call from the mayor. How bad is this? Walsh closes his eyes. As bad as it gets. The city can't ignore this. The country won't let them. And in 3 days, Thomas Walker will walk into a hearing room, and everyone will listen. Richmond Courthouse, September 28th, 11 days after the incident, grand jury convenes. Thomas Walker arrives at 8 a.m., 70 reporters outside, camera crews from 6 states, satellite trucks blocking traffic. He doesn't stop for questions, just walks. Sarah beside him, Evelyn Moore on the other side. The crowd parts, quiet, respectful. People hold signs. We believe you. Justice now. 52 strong. Inside, the courthouse feels like a cathedral. Marble floors, high ceilings, the echo of footsteps, the weight of history. Grand jury room on the 3rd floor. 23 citizens, prosecutor, court reporter, evidence binders stacked 3 feet high. Blake Stevens sits in the back row. Attorney beside him, face blank, carefully neutral, but his hands shake slightly, just enough to notice. Thomas takes the stand, hand on Bible, the oath administered by a clerk whose voice trembles slightly. Please state your name for the record. Thomas Edward Walker. And your occupation? I was Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court. I retired in 2022. The prosecutor is young, 35 maybe, but precise, methodical. She walks Thomas through it, frame by frame. Mr. Walker, on September 17th at approximately 5:41 p.m., where were you? Broad Street, near 5th, looking at a sidewalk artist's work. What happened next? Officer Stevens approached me, asked for identification. I asked why. He became aggressive. Did you resist? No. Did you threaten Officer Stevens in any way? No. Did you do anything to justify the force used against you? I asked a question. I asked why I was being stopped, that's all. The prosecutor introduces exhibits, one by one, methodically. Exhibit A, Jennifer Bailey's live stream, 3 minutes, 56 seconds, played in full. The shove, the fall, the handcuffs. Jurors watch in silence. Several lean forward. Several close their eyes. Exhibit B, security camera footage from Green's Bakery. Better angle, clearer view. Timestamp visible, 17 hours, 41 minutes, and 18 seconds. Exhibit C, body cam footage. Video clear. Audio conveniently missing. Exhibit D through P, 52 complaint files, the full database, names, dates, outcomes, the pattern undeniable. Exhibit Q, email chain between Reed and Collins. Settle quietly. Keep it clean. Exhibit R, financial records. $340,000, 8 settlements, all buried. Exhibit S, the recording, 18 minutes, played in full. Jurors' faces harden with each sentence. Richard Bennett testifies. Gray hair, steady voice. 23 years Richmond PD, 15 in internal affairs. I tried to report the pattern. Was told to stand down. Told these were isolated incidents. Told to stop making problems. I kept the files because I knew someday someone would need them. Grace Thompson testifies. 38. Investigative reporter, 15 years covering police. The evidence shows systematic cover-up, not just one officer. An entire system designed to protect misconduct and silence victims. Julian Davis testifies. Former FBI, voice flat, professional. Financial analysis indicates deliberate use of city funds to avoid accountability. This meets the legal definition of conspiracy. The leaked recording plays again. Jurors take notes. The court reporter's fingers fly, every word preserved, every admission documented. The prosecutor addresses the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, this isn't just about one officer who exceeded his authority. This is about a system that enabled him, protected him, paid to keep his victims silent, a system that failed its most basic duty, equal protection under law. Blake Stevens is called, invokes Fifth Amendment, doesn't speak, doesn't defend, just sits there while his silence speaks volumes. The jury deliberates. 4 hours. Lunch brought in. They return at 3:15 p.m. The foreperson stands, woman, mid-50s, teacher according to jury questionnaires, voice clear. We find probable cause on all charges, indictment approved. Charges read aloud: assault and battery, deprivation of civil rights under color of law, falsifying police reports, conspiracy to obstruct justice. Blake Stevens closes his eyes. His attorney touches his arm, says something quiet. Stevens nods, doesn't look up. Thomas closes his eyes too. Breathes. Sarah squeezes his hand. It's not over. Indictment isn't conviction, but it's a start, a formal acknowledgement that what happened matters. That the system, however broken, still has mechanisms for accountability. Outside, the crowd erupts, cheering, crying, 52 victims holding each other. Marcus Brown lifts his son onto his shoulders. Keisha Washington collapses against her sister. Grace stands apart, taking notes, already writing the story in her head, but also just watching, witnessing. This moment that so many people fought for. Evelyn Moore holds a brief press conference, reads the charges, explains next steps, announces expanded civil suit, federal consent decree still pending. Thomas doesn't speak. Not yet. Too exhausted, too overwhelmed. Just stands there while people thank him, while cameras flash, while history records this moment. It's not over. The trial will take months, the reforms will take years. But something shifted today, something fundamental, and the ripples, they're just beginning. 3 weeks later, Blake Stevens pleads not guilty, trial date set for March. His attorney promises a vigorous defense. The union stands behind him, for now. Sharon Collins resigns, no statement, no press conference, just a terse email to city council citing personal reasons. Nobody believes it. The interim manager is appointed within 48 hours. First order of business, independent review of all settlement agreements. Richmond PD announces reforms, independent oversight board, mandatory body cam audit, internal affairs restructure, civilian review panel, words on paper. Time will tell if they mean anything. The Department of Justice investigation continues. Federal prosecutors interviewing witnesses, subpoenaing records, building cases, plural. Thomas Walker holds a press conference. First time speaking publicly since that Tuesday afternoon. He stands on the courthouse steps. Same marble, same autumn light. Different context. This was never about me, he says. Voice steady, measured. It was about the 52 others, the ones nobody listened to. The ones whose names didn't make headlines. They're why we're here. They're why this matters. He pauses, looks at the cameras, at the reporters, at the faces in the crowd. Justice doesn't see faces, doesn't see titles, doesn't see color. That's the promise. We don't always keep that promise, but we keep trying, we keep pushing, we keep demanding better. Sarah stands beside him, squeezes his hand. Because the alternative is silence, and silence only protects the powerful. Grace Thompson publishes her follow-up series. 6 parts, 20,000 words, every detail, every receipt, every voice. The headline, One Case, Systemic Change, the work continues. It wins prizes, but more importantly, it forces conversations. In city councils, in police departments, in communities that have been silent too long. The video, Jennifer Bailey's live stream, still circulates. 500,000 views now, comments in 15 languages. But it means something different now. Not just what happened, but what happened next. Thomas walks the same route, Tuesday afternoons, past the bakery where Mrs. Chen still waves, past the newsstand where Patterson still saves him the Times, left on Broad Street. He pauses at the spot, the exact spot where Stevens pushed him down. Someone has left flowers. A small sign. Justice walked here. Thomas doesn't know who left it. Doesn't need to, just stands there for a moment, remembering, feeling the weight of everything that came after. Then he keeps walking. Leather shoes on brick, the same rhythm, the same peace. Some things don't change, some things shouldn't, but some things must, and do, when enough people refuse to look away. If this story reminds you why evidence matters, why voices matter, why no one stands above the law, leave a comment. Share this story. Subscribe for more investigations where justice finds its way. Because the work continues, the fight continues. The demand for accountability continues. They threw him down, then they saw the wallet, and everything changed.